So if we have a sphere, so remember a sphere is basically just a ball, okay? So if we've got a sphere, I'm sorry, my pictures are going to be rough. Let's say that they give us that it has a radius of 3 inches, okay? So volume for a sphere is this formula, 4/3 pi r cubed. So we're just going to substitute in what we know. Now, depending on what they tell you, they can tell you to use the pi symbol, or they can tell you to use 3.14. I'm going to use the pi symbol first, just to show that one to you first. So what you're going to do is you're going to substitute in your radius. If they give you the diameter, make sure you take half. I'm going to actually cube this number. So 3 cubed is 3 times 3 times 3, which is 27. And then I'm going to use my calculator, and I'm going to do the fraction button. I'm going to do 4/3. Okay. And then I'm going to multiply that times that 27. So I'm taking 4/3 of 27, which in this case is 36. So this will be 36 pi. Now, if they tell you to use 3.14, the only difference is that you would just multiply this also by 3.14. So you could also tell me that the volume would be 113.04. So it depends on whether they tell you to use the pi symbol or to whether to use 3.14. So it just depends on what the problem tells you to do. Okay. Now I do want to mention another thing that can happen is that you can have a hemisphere instead. Now a hemisphere is basically the same thing, but it's only half of the sphere as opposed to the whole thing. So for example, if I had this problem, again, I'm still making a radius of 3 inches, I would treat it like it was a full sphere and then just take my volume at the end. So let's say it was 36 pi. I'm going to take that 36 pi and just divide it by 2. So 36 divided by 2 will give you 18. So I could do my volume as 18 pi, or I could have it being multiplied by 3.14. I did that wrong, sorry. So 18 times 3.14 gives me 56.52. So depending on whether they tell you to use pi or 3.14 will be the big difference there. So either way, they're still the same answer. It just depends on what they were looking for. Now the last thing to talk about is composite figures. And it actually just takes all the things we've done already and puts it together. So for example, let's say I have a problem that looks kind of like this one. So I've got a cylinder on the bottom, and I've got a cone sitting on top of it. All right, now let's say that this has a radius of, let's make it 6 meters. Let's say that this has a height of 4 meters. Obviously this is not drawn to scale. And this has a height of, let's say 5 meters. Okay, we've got 2 pieces. We've got the cone on the top and we've got the cylinder on the bottom. So for the cone, it has a radius of 6 and a height of 5. So we would substitute it into our formula, 1/3 pi r squared h. And I'm going to use 3.14 for pi on these, because that is also how it is on your test. And then I'm just going to come over to my calculator and actually type that in. So I've got 1/3 times 3.14 Sorry, apparently I'm not good at this calculator. And this is just the Desmos calculator. It's one that's close to the one that you'd be given on like the GMAS and things like that. So this would be a good one to use at home if you needed it, depending on what calculator you have. So yeah, I just typed all of that in and I got 188.4. So this volume is 188.4 meters cubed. I'm going to do the same thing for the cylinder. Now for the cylinder, it has a radius of 6 and a height of 4. Remember, our formula is pi r squared h. Again, I'm going to use 3.14 for pi, my radius of 6, and my height of 4. And then I'm just going to type in it over here. So I've got 3.14 times 6 squared times 4. So all of that gives me a volume of 452.16 meters cubed. Now if I wanted to know the whole thing together, I'm just going to add those values together. 188.4 plus 452.16. So if I add that 188.4 to that, I should get my final answer, which is 640.56 meters cubed. So just make sure when you're looking at composite figures, you're just doing each individual piece and just adding them together. That's all you're doing. Be careful if you see anything that looks spherical. It's almost always a hemisphere. So remember, treat it like it's a full sphere and then just divide that number by 2.